In today's video, I'm going to show you a feature that you're probably underusing if you're trying to systemize your business in ClickUp. And this feature, it's not templates, it's not automations, it's not SOPs or documentation. This feature is really useful if you have admin tasks and you know they're recurring with a certain frequency. Say you have weekly reviews, daily meetings, quarterly assessments. All of these tasks are recurring. They have a start date, a due date, but they happen on a certain cycle. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to use recurring tasks in ClickUp. Now, recurring tasks are a feature that lets you create tasks that are repeatable in a certain cycle that you define in ClickUp. And I'll show you step by step how to set that up and all the mistakes to avoid to make sure your recurring tasks are created with the right settings. Now let's get started. Without further ado, I have created right here a diagram that explains a little bit how recurring tasks work in ClickUp. The first thing to know once you open the task and set its due date is that you have the option to make it recurring. If we get to ClickUp right here, if we click on due date right here, you have the option set recurring that pops up. If we get back to our diagram, when it pops up, you'll have this screen. And this screen basically shows you a few settings. First off, you can create a start and due date for this task. You can say for a monthly recurring task that starts on the 1st of January and ends on the 7th of January, the next recurrence is going to be 1st of February till 7th of February. Start date and due date are customizable, of course, but then you can also set up the frequency of that task. You can say, I want this task to recur every day, week, month, year. You can even say every 21 days, every quarter, every 2 months. You can really customize things the way you want. Next thing you can set up with recurring tasks is the trigger. A recurring task will be created based on a few triggers. There's two main options: when a task is complete or on schedule. If it recurs when a task is complete, it means you have to close the previous recurrence for the next one to be created. If it's created on schedule, it will be created based on the due date of that recurrence. And I advise you to pick that method. Always pick on schedule. Next, we have the statuses. So once a task recurs, you can choose to set it in a certain status. You don't want your task to be created with a closed status based on the previous recurrence, for example. Always want to create your new recurrences in an open status. And finally, the most important thing, the content. So you can make your task recur with certain settings that it pulls from the previous recurrence. And you have to make sure you set those properly. I'll show you how to do so in ClickUp. Now, I think you understood the power of recurring tasks already, but just to summarize a little bit, there's a few benefits. One very important benefit is that you have the automated scheduling, so you cannot really miss on a task anymore. If it's a weekly meeting, it's gonna happen, it's gonna recur anyway, even if you forget to create that new weekly meeting task, and you will not make that mistake of missing on a deadline. Next is consistency. So instead of having to duplicate or copy and paste the content of a description from one task to another, you are just making sure that the new task will be created with the exact same settings as the previous one. If you have a solid SOP in one of the tasks, it will be repeatable and will be reused in the next one. I think you understood where this can be used, but just to tell you a few examples, it's useful if you're doing recurring tasks by definitions. If you have a monthly accounting review, a weekly meeting, a yearly setup, a daily check, whatever happens at a certain frequency. And as I've told you, you can really customize the frequency. It doesn't have to be monthly, daily, weekly. It can be every 21 days, every 32 days, every 4 weeks. It's really up to you. So we saw how recurring tasks can be useful, but I'll show you how they're not useful and you shouldn't use them. Avoid those recurring tasks in case you're having ad hoc work that comes up occasionally. If you're having work that happens on the go, on demand, and you don't really know when it's going to be triggered, you might want to use templates and trigger those templates based on automations, like using a tag that would trigger a template because it's ad hoc and it's on demand. If you're having processes that don't recur regularly, use templates. If they recur on a certain frequency, use recurring tasks. Simple as that. Now, a few things that you have to make sure to set up when you set up a recurring task is to avoid bringing in whatever's tied to the task activity in the new recurrence. So you don't want to bring in these comments, attachments, and everything else. And I'll show you how this can look in ClickUp. Let's get into ClickUp and try to set up this yearly seminar preparation as a recurring task. As you can see right here, we have a few assignees. And if we open this yearly seminar, we have an SOP on how to do it. That's amazing. My task is set up. We even have some subtasks. We make sure that we schedule this task as recurring. To do so, I'm going to say that usually my yearly seminar prep is 1st to 30th of September, for example. And then I have subtasks. So I'll make sure that these subtasks are nested in that start and due date. I'll put this one 2nd to the 6th. And let's say this one 9th to 13th. This one same. This one 16th to 20th. And this one 23rd to 27th. We have a main task that has a start date and an end date, and subtasks that have due dates nested into that main deadline. Our task makes sense because it has start dates, due dates, assignees. Potentially, we could also add estimates or points if we wanted to, but basically we have a solid task with an SOP that we can make recurring. Now, this is a yearly seminar. So we'll go into due date, click set recurring, and in frequency, we'll pick the frequency we need, which is yearly. I'll click yearly right here, and then we'll pick our schedule. And as I told you, I recommend you to use the on schedule. That way it will be created even if we haven't closed that task by the due date. So if that task is still open on the 30th of September 2024, we will still have a recurring yearly seminar for 30th of September 2026. That way you make sure that you have a visibility into the future even if you forgot to close the previous one. So we'll leave recur forever, but we could decide to make it recur 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 times, whatever we want. And then we'll keep the status on open. We don't want this to be created in the status of the previous recurrence, because this recurrence might be in an in progress status. And if we set it up that it keeps the status of the previous recurrence, the problem is the new one will be created with in progress, and we want to keep it as open. And I'm going to show you something before we finish that setup. So I'll open this task and I will add something into the comments. So I said, Diane, please pick a destination, and I added a comment, and potentially I could also add some image attachments. So I'm adding content and context to the 2024 yearly seminar preparation. Now, if we were to create our task like this and resolve all items, it will create a new recurrence. That's not the problem. But the problem is that if we open that recurrence, it'll have the inheritance of the previous recurrence. So we'll have all the content, all the comments from the previous one. And we really don't want that. We want each recurrence to be standalone in terms of its activity. So to set that up properly, you want to make sure that when you go into the recurrence, you go into every year and options, you turn off the comments, and you make sure that attachments and activity are turned off as well. So comments, attachment, activity. And you also want to turn off watchers, because if you've added someone in a comment in a recurrence, they'll also be added as watcher, and that watcher will be dragged down to the next recurrence, and we don't want that. So we'll turn off watchers as well, click save, and save again. And that way, if we were to close that recurrence, the new one that will just be created will not have those comments. So if I open that one up, it doesn't have any activity, it doesn't have any comments. That's exactly what we want. You want to make sure that if you go into options, again, all of this is turned off, the comments, the watchers, the attachments. And that's really it. You have a recurring task, and you have to make sure that we review your business and your processes so that you turn each of those templates that happen on a certain cycle into recurring tasks. That will save you time from automating them, and you will also make sure that you're not making mistakes on setting them up or forgetting to trigger them. Thanks for watching. I hope that helps you out. And if you're interested in understanding more about ClickUp and getting to the next level of that software, you can just go through the link in the description and get your ClickUp mini course. It's completely free, and you'll have 6 videos on ClickUp over a week in your inbox to really understand the full potential of that software and bring you from beginner to an intermediate ClickUp user. Thanks for watching, and stay productive.